Is it just a bit? Should you commit to it? Is there something to get? Are you overthinking it? Half awake, the mistake is in making a mint thing out of the meaningless dreaming, half forgotten and fading. Fully lost albatross in the moss-covered inkling, mindful ship slowly sinking. This is what there is to see. Bask in the mystery. This is where there is to go. Know that you'll never know. This is what you.
All right, it's time for Ask or Tell Me Anything. Once again, the number to call to ask or tell me anything is 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. No topic off limits. No idea too small or too big. Well, I mean, they might be, but we will only find that out by putting them on the air. What else do I need to say? We've already got one call, but yeah, 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. I have two things I want to bring up here. One of them, the first one is very whimsical. The second one is perhaps not. So here's the whimsical thing. In the break room today, we have Munchkins. That would be a Dunkin' Donuts product, very small donut-like things. Is there another foodstuff? I think that might be one of the first times I've ever used the word foodstuff. Is there another foodstuff that is named after a human or humanoid thing, so that you're essentially proposing to eat a living humanoid entity? In other words, I'm not talking about Peter Pan peanut butter. That's a peanut butter. You don't eat Peter Pan. But with the Munchkins, you're supposed to eat a Munchkin, right? So I'm sure there are other products like that. I just can't think what they are. But they're all disturbing. So anyway, if you can think of one, 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. But on a somewhat more serious note, I was actually kind of surprised to get up this morning and find in the, Lyceum-like debate space, the debate space that so enlarges our perceptions of reality, known as X, quite a lot of people, and not just deranged members of the American right, although it was maybe mostly those, but opening with this idea. I have to sort of adjust my voice to make it sound more jingoistic and manly. As Americans, we kind of insist on playing the other team's best, so we would always want the other team that we're playing to be at full strength. They're complaining about the fact that Belgium is now appealing the appeal of the suspension, the red card suspension of one of the U.S. players. So I was shocked at how many people said this, including some people whose work I have kind of liked and respected in the past. It's just not true. It's not a thing, I mean, some of these were like Green Bay Packers beat writers, all of whom I follow, and I'm thinking there wasn't an atom of your being that wished that the Packers could play the Detroit Lions after Brian Branch's suspension in 2025. I mean, people involved in really competitive sports, they seek every edge they can get. And one of the edges you can get that's a great edge that you don't have to do anything to earn is if one of the other team's players is suspended. There isn't a Major League Baseball club right now that hopes they can play the Boston Red Sox when Wilson Contreras isn't suspended. They're going to be very happy if their pitchers don't have to face Wilson Contreras, and they don't care why that is. So I'm kind of astonished at that kind of rhetoric. I get that, yes, I mean, America wants to root for its team and all that kind of stuff. But to me, that as we will discover as we begin to take calls, that process has become so impossibly muddied anyway. Yes, it looks like we are going to get calls on this, whether I suggest it or not. And we'll begin with Mike from Woodbury, and then we'll have Sue as well. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Colin. Well, yeah, you stole my thunder a little bit. I was going to jump into this. But the World Cup has been just terrific. Happening here in the United States, and the matches have been terrific, and all these people coming from all except for the ticket prices. That's the only thing that's not so great. But all these people coming from all over the world and loving America and loving our food, particularly our ranch dressing. Apparently, is something that's really. I guess they don't have that in Europe and places.
They've been working on it. They have like a secret project. It's like their Manhattan Project. I don't know exactly what it would be called.
Right.
The Edelweiss Project is to develop a ranch dressing. They're on the verge. Anyway, continue.
Exactly. But anyway, so our U.S. striker Folarin Balogun, who was actually of Nigerian parentage, but he was born in the U.S., so he's okay. He's not a foreigner.
Well, actually, if you looked at the rhetoric post-Dreamer decision, it's not clear that everybody in this country believes that anymore. But continue.
Okay, but anyway, so he, during the game between the U.S. and Bosnia-Herzegovina, he stepped on a opposing player's ankle, and he got the red card, and he got ejected from the game, and he can't play for another game. And as you were kind of saying, it's like in most sports, that's the end of it. People often, I guess it was somewhat controversial. People often argue with referees about the outcome. But guess what? Guess who has to stick their nose into this? And in my opinion, cast a cloud over this game that's happening tonight, which is he calls Gianni Infantino, who is his buddy, who's the president of FIFA, who gave him the FIFA Peace Prize as a consolation prize for not getting the Nobel, and says, you got to reverse this. And the guy reverses it. And so...
Although, as I understand what he did, because I don't think they can reverse a call. I think FIFA, even given their willingness to bend the rules, I think what he's doing is what they have done in pre-World Cup matches, which is suspend the enforcement until a later date, right? That's what they're doing with him.
Oh, okay. But so the game tonight is going to be like, Belgium is furious, and they should be, and what would be great is if either our coach and the player said, you know what, I think I'll sit this one out just because, but of course that's not going to happen.
No, because of exactly what I said at the outset, which is that in competitive sports, every team looks for every advantage. It really is very unusual for any team to get in highly competitive situations to give up on a possible advantage. So yeah, they're not going to sit him.
No, they're not going to. But this is apparently unprecedented for to overturn this
during the World Cup. Yeah.
During the World Cup, on the day of the match. So anyway, once again, he stuck his nose in where it's not needed or desired.
Yeah, and I think that's been kind of the theme of the weekend too. Most presidents do not even attend the 4th of July fireworks in D.C. He showed up and he had to make a political speech at the fireworks.
About communists. Yeah, all these communists.
Because he has to be the center of attention. He has to be the center of the attention in the World Cup. He's the big fat dad running out onto the field to scream at the refs during the youth soccer game. And I think the thing when he tried to insert himself into the Swift-Kelsey wedding night, showing up in their hotel room in that negligee. I didn't even know they made negligee. He bought the negligee at Cabela's, apparently. I didn't know you could do that. But, I just
He put a sign. He put a sign. There's a sign above in Times Square someplace that says that, Trump is your president, to try to take attention away from the wedding.
Step aside once in a while. Mike, great call. Well, thanks for getting us going. Our number, 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. And let's talk to Sue, who is driving, but Sue is driving hands-free, and she's concentrating intently on the road ahead of her. Hi, Sue.
Hi, I absolutely am. I guess I wanted to piggyback on your previous caller, and I just think it's outrageous to think that Trump would have called the head of FIFA and requested that this suspension be suspended. And I just, when I look at all the things Trump does and says, I just keep wondering what our children are getting out of this. It just is remarkable to me. So I had a similar call. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were, Colin.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, one thing he's having trouble with acknowledging is he's very unpopular right now. I mean, he has like a 38% approval rating. So when he does stuff, it's probably not going to make people happy. When he gets himself involved in stuff that is none of his business, it is none of the business of the President of the United States. I don't know, the President of the United States could be working really hard on getting this, the ceasefire in Iran to actually work as a ceasefire. The President of the United States could be working hard to lower inflation, to do something about gas prices, to help farmers out, to work more on health care. But basically, all he's doing is flitting around, basking in whatever kind of, he's like a moth. Just a big, huge, narcissistic moth drawn to any bright light he can find, and that's what he's doing with his time right now. He's not using his time constructively on behalf of the American people.
Right, and again, what lesson is this teaching our kids? That's just my point.
I think that you can use. I don't know how old you are, but I grew up and there was this children's magazine called Highlights, which, as far as I could tell, was only present in doctors' and dentists' office. I don't know anybody who got Highlights at home. Maybe I'm misremembering, but anyway. If you recall, there was a feature called Goofus and Gallant, there was so Gallant was sort of the good boy and Goofus was sort of the jerk, and the whole idea is don't be Goofus. So I think I think Trump has a role to play in child rearing in America. He's Goofus. Don't be Goofus.
Right. And you and I went to the same high school and attended around the same time, so I actually got Highlights in the mail. I loved it. Anyway.
Well, I'm not going to say you were a nerd because I was definitely a nerd. So I'm sure I was doing something much more nerdy than getting Highlights. Anyway, thanks very much for your call. Let's go to Suzanne, who has put some thought into my other question, which once again is apropos of munchkins. Are there other things that we are invited to eat that are the names of humans or humanoid forms? You've got these, Susan. You've got these.
Yes. Mary Jane's and Babe Ruth.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Fine work. That's fine
Thank
work.
you.
Yeah. I
Thank
forget what
you.
I remember Babe Ruth. I'm trying to remember, is it Babe Ruth or Baby Ruth? Or maybe there were two products. But what were Mary Jane's besides shoes?
There was a little candy. The little candies, they're rectangular. They kind of taste like peanut butter. I just had one yesterday.
Oh, really?
They're very old-fashioned, so I'm dating myself.
Yes. But on the other hand, they are currently available. Unless you've been hoarding them, they are currently available for you to eat yesterday.
Yeah, at a little general store.
Yeah. The Actually, the Isaac Mouse Report is doing some research for us today. The Isaac Mouse Report, first of all, wonders about madeleines. That's a really good one. That's Proust. They ate the madeleines, and I like that. I like the Prousty one. And then on a less Prousty basis, the Isaac Mouse Report has reported that there's actually a type of candy, a snack food, a Spanish cookie brand called Filipinos. And so she has put pictures here in the thread. She's put pictures of something called, the brand is sold in 40 countries: Portugal, Finland, Sweden, Netherlands, Morocco. I bet you a lot of those World Cup soccer players are hopped up on Filipinos. It's probably one of the reasons they play the way they do.
Probably the winning teams are all hyped up on that.
And now Robin is suggesting that there's something people eat called Dutch baby. You just made that up, Robin. Dutch baby. People don't eat Dutch baby. I'm sorry I ever asked about this. All right.
The Big Mac wasn't named after you, right?
No, it was not. That's a
checking.
fair one, too. There are more of these than I actually had suspected. All right. Suzanne, you have a very fertile mind, and we appreciate that. All right. So we've got time, I think, to take one more. Okay. That sounds good. Okay. Let's do Kelsey in Canterbury. Which sounds like the name of maybe like a Netflix series or something. Kelsey in Canterbury. Anyway, go ahead.
Thanks, Colin. I have a non-soccer or food-related one. So I wanted to tell you about an organization I work with called Braver Angels, and we are focused on reducing political polarization and bridging the partisan divide. So we do this by hosting workshops. We have a lot of in-person experiences that people can come out to, and learn from other people. We have some online trainings that are actually really good that you can just spend an hour learning how to combat your own inner polarizer and how to have better conversations with people who you disagree with. So I wanted you and your listeners to know that if you're kind of over all the polarization, you should join us. And there's a lot to learn and a lot of fun to be had.
So how do people join in? In other words, what would be the entry-level experience with Braver Angels? Is there like a one-on-one or something you do online, or do you have to have them come to your company and help you or something?
No. So actually you can just go to braverangels.org. And then what I would do is I would search for the Connecticut Alliance. Yeah. That's our local chapter. And probably the first thing that I would do is do one of the online trainings.
Okay.
So there's some about like family and politics, how to navigate those types of conversations. Just really good, interesting things that you can do all on your own and learn a little bit. And if that resonates with you, you can join the Alliance and get involved in other ways.
I think this it sounds like the thing we need right now. So, Kelsey from Canterbury, thank you so much for telling us about it. Okay, we'll take one more call from Don. We'll probably do kind of it turns out there's like way more of this than my paltry imagination had been able to summon to mind when I was looking at the box of Munchkins in the break room. But here's Don from Greenwich with another suggestion. Hi, Don.
Hi, Colin. Yeah, just quick and clean here. Just 2 words. Gingerbread man.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's not exactly a product, but you're right. It's still a thing that we eat that is, and we are also just familiar with it in a kind of semi-animated state, too.
Yeah, and it has a face, and it has arms and legs.
It's got a storyline. Isn't there you Can't Catch Me, I'm the Gingerbread Man? Isn't that's like a thing of some kind, a nursery rhyme?
I don't know that one, but... Anyway.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. I think that was a Hitchcock movie, but I'm not sure. No, You Can't Catch Me, I'm the Gingerbread Man. That's from somewhere. All right. So it's definitely from somewhere. All right. So you can call up about anything you want to. I feel so bad about, like, I played soccer for a long time. I'm not saying I played it beautifully, but I played club soccer in college, and then I played adult soccer until I was about 35. And then at the age of 40? No, I was older than that. At the age of 46, excuse me, I was playing soccer. I was trying to familiarize my son and his friends. You know, some kids just don't want to join the town league and have to wear uniforms and go to practices and stuff. But I wanted these kids just to play some soccer. So I had this thing. They were all like 11, 12, 13 years old. When I would bring them, sometimes with another adult to help me, to a local school on Sunday afternoons, and we would all play soccer. And I had, one rule that I had was that we don't keep score. Instead, at a certain point, I would yell out, next goal wins. Now, even if everybody secretly knew that the score was 7-1, it kind of just made it possible for either side to win. I wasn't really too interested in teaching them ruthless competition. But also it was fun for me to play. Still at my decrepit age, I could still do this. See, it was 2000. I was 40. I was 46 years old. So at that time, and then we're going to go to a break after this. At that time, Mia Hamm had sort of really kind of made her mark on women's soccer, and Mia Hamm had this great cutback. She had a cutback move that was like, it was the best. And so there's that thing you do when you're playing sports, like you're in the corner with the basketball and you go Steph Curry, and then you ideally drain the 3-pointer. You call out the name of the person that you're going to be. So I decided I was going to do, in the moment, I wanted to do a cutback. So I yelled, Mia Hamm, and I did my cutback, and I completely snapped and severed my quadriceps tendon, the tendon that connects the thigh muscle to the patella. So now there was no, that's not a good thing. Okay. There was nothing connecting the muscle to the kneecap, so that when they took me to the hospital, which was the next thing that happened, and they put you on the table and they tell you to lift your leg and nothing happens because you're contracting the muscle the way that you typically would, but the kneecap doesn't know that. So anyway, that was the end of all my soccer playing. But, it's a game that I really loved my whole life, and it's probably the game that I miss playing more than any other sport I ever played. And so it's been kind of nice to have everybody, everybody's kind of catching up with it. I think this World Cup in particular, because it's in the U.S. and because the USMNT has been, pretty competitive so far, people are kind of getting into it. And then who has to go ruin it? Who has to go staggering in there because he's tired of his just hemorrhaging poll numbers and try to court a whole new type of popularity by meddling in something that is none of the business of the president of the United States? Who has to go do that? Somebody with a deep, deep personal chasm, an abyss that can never be filled by anything because there's something horrible that I blame his Scottish mother for toilet training him that way. I think that's the problem. But then somebody told me that she didn't pay that much attention to him. So maybe she didn't toilet train him well enough. I don't know. I'm looking for someone to blame. Let's take a break. Our number, 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR.
Who makes some money gets wrapped up in it. But how do pay time to ever forget that I knew it? Great for your beauty. Got shivers written up in my spirit. Please me.
Never mind what you had, make your exes mad. Ooh, boo, boo, too bad. Hotter than a candle now. You deserve better now. Keep my baby warm, I'm your new Chanel sweater. I'm all in with the cash on the line. Let them know that the stakes is high. Yeah, baby, bankroll tall. Win, lose, or draw. Leave with it all. That's what happens when you bet on you. Yeah, that's what happens when you bet on you. I think you're going too hard. Showing your cards and then fall hard. That's what happens when you bet on you. Yeah, that's what happens when you bet on you.
What's my worksheet? It's at your price range. Check the text, straight from Texas, boy, I'm custom made. Come correct, cause you're talking to the queen. I want a king with a stretch limousine. Yeah, I got an ass that make your eyes looking from right there. So you again, but not so come on, take the bait. Oh, I hold my weight and go.
That's Bet on You by Anderson .Paak and Chung Ha. What a great song. That would have been my song in the summer choice. I mean, we don't get to say. Anyway, this is Ask or Tell Me Anything. We call it All Calls internally, 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. And here we go. We're going to go back to the phones here. There are people who do, oddly enough, I would have guessed that the thing people wanted to talk about most, just having judged from social media earlier today, is the World Cup and Donald Trump's interference in it. On the other hand, a lot of people seem very interested in talking about things that are foodstuffs that are sort of people, that are named after people. And there turned out to be a lot more of them than I had imagined. But be aware that anything is okay to talk about. All topics are welcome. 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. And here is Dennis from New Milford. Hi, Dennis.
Hi, Colin. How's things going today?
Things are going just fine, Dennis.
Good to hear. I heard a little bit before about competitors, and I had a personal experience with. I went to an autograph show and I met Al Downing, who was the pitcher who faced Henry Aaron, who hit a 715th home run to break Babe Ruth's record.
Yeah.
And I kind of asked him about it because he has a little eccentricity where it's never 7:15 in his home. It's always 7:15, and he'll sign an autograph. Al Downing 7:15. And I kind of asked him about that. And he said that, when you're a competitor at the highest level, at professional level like that, he goes, you don't get there unless you really have the force behind you like that. And when it comes to a game and the star player's injured and on the other team something, hey, that's just how it goes, and those guys they're going out there and they're going to play and they're going to play hard, and wherever the dice land is where it lands.
I think that's true. I mean, which does not foreclose good sportsmanship. You can tip your cap to the other guy, to the other woman, the other person. There are plenty of opportunities to do that and to express that. And I've never liked there are certain coaches who, for example, don't like it if there's a opposing player like on the basketball court who's on the floor, who's fallen down, and your player goes over and helps that person up. I've never liked the kind of coach that goes, don't do that. In fact, from a gamesmanship point of view, if you spend the whole game helping the other team to their feet, that can get into their heads just as easily. Like, oh, we're the ones who need help. But anyway, I've never liked that kind of cutthroat stuff. But I get it, and to tell you the truth, I mean, the biggest problem with it is that it bleeds into cheating so easily. I mean, Lance Armstrong was the product of a culture looking for ways to shave, minutes off of a time, where the difference between victory and defeat was sometimes pretty narrow, where anything you could possibly do to help yourself. And so one of the reasons we see in the Olympics, not just Lance Armstrong, but various kinds of other kinds of doping and stuff like that, they've been brought up in a culture where anything you can possibly do to exceed your visible limits, you should try to do that. And if we're not careful the way that we coach people and the way we bring athletes up, they start doing stuff like that. And of course that's the bad line. But yeah, I actually remember Al Downing, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing you're a Yankees fan.
Yep.
I think he was mostly during a kind of a fallow period, the kind of Horace Clarke era, circa 66, 67, 68, where it was a little bit of a valley in the otherwise triumphalist story of the New York Yankees.
Yes, it's when he was pitching, and I think he had one of his better years in '67. I just kind of looked real quick to look at his record overall in case we talk a little more. But he ended up going around a 16-year career. Yeah, well, nothing wrong with that. Dennis, thanks so much for your call. We got plenty of open lines here. 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. I want to mention something that I was at yesterday because I got asked. So Hartford had this thing, and I guess it was sort of statewide too. To this moment, I still don't entirely understand the structure of it, but it was called the Long Weekend. And the idea was to sort of take kind of a 5-day stretch of time and create some interesting programming around it. And so in Hartford, they had the Hartford Film Festival. This is the second year of that. But they had just lots of other kind of arts events and open museums, free admission to the Athenaeum and stuff like that. I was asked by the Connecticut Forum to be there in the Burr Mall, which is between the Athenaeum and City Hall. It's where the Stegosaurus is, for a kind of the home stretch of the events on Sunday afternoon. And so there was this afternoon there where there were local dance troupes, including the breakdancing Shakespeare people from Hartford Stage, and a great drum ensemble with Alvin Carter Jr., people like that. And just also people milling around, a lot of food trucks. I think they were calling it the Great American Potluck or something. There were food trucks. And what they wanted was a few people just to sort of mill around and talk to people sitting at tables. And I don't know, it struck me that I could conceivably be construed as a nuisance in that form, but I decided it was worth trying anyway. It was such a wonderful afternoon, and there wasn't like a huge crowd there, but there was a healthy crowd for most of the time, and I was aware of the fact that I don't spend as much time as I used to in that kind of unstructured environment where I'm out in Hartford or New Haven and there are people milling around and you wind up having those random conversations with people, conversations that you weren't expected to have and couldn't have planned, where people get to come up to me and talk about this show or my columns or whatever. And that kind of backed up against this generally festive environment
I was actually coaxed into one kind of line dancing situation by one of the groups. I immediately messed it up too. I'm really bad at that kind of thing. But just, nobody taking themselves too seriously. And kids around, and the mayor was around, and one of his kids joined into the drum ensemble, and it was just, there's not enough of that. And so I was so thrilled at the end when it was announced by Tanisha Dugan that what they're going to do is take that concept, move it to the fall of 2027, and create kind of a Hartford Arts and Culture Fall Weekend that will include the Hartford Film Festival. And I just think we're so politicized and polarized right now. We're all spending way too much time on social media, communicating with people we don't like. And we're not spending, maybe I should just speak for myself. I feel like I'm not spending enough time out in the fresh air with just, once again, kind of randomized groups of people. The Real Art Ways Creative Cocktail Hour used to be a great environment for that. Right now they're closed while they're expanding. But those kinds of things are really important. They're part of the lifeblood of it. They're part of the connective tissue of a community. I mean, what I have is this group of people I walk with every single day in the park with our dogs. And we just talk about whatever. And there's no real plan, and nobody's divided up into any kind of, ideological subsets or anything like that. People just talk. But we need way more of that. So I'm psyched by the idea that they're going to preserve the idea. All right, here is Terry in Stamford. Here we go with Terry. Terry, you have the floor.
Hi. I called because I'm concerned about our rising temperatures and climate change. And I think we missed an opportunity on Saturday when so much attention was focused on Washington and on the mall and on the chaos, some of which came from these high temperatures. I think we missed an opportunity to connect those high temperatures with Trump's promotion of fossil fuels and his attacks on renewable energy. And I was surprised that no one drew that connection. And one thing I think that most people don't talk about is that these things are going to continue. There is really no upper bound on rising temperatures. Every year they go higher and higher. And if heat indices like 110 degrees are unbearable, how will we survive it when the heat indices get 10 or 20 degrees higher? And I just think we need to focus more public attention on this problem and bring pressure on Trump to change his policies.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with everything except the idea that bringing pressure will cause him to do anything. And I mean, there's so many things about Trump that are bizarre. And what was I was reading this interesting. It was the review of the new Jonathan Swan and Maggie Haberman book in the New York Times, where they talked about there's sort of an idea that's been kind of baked into Western culture and maybe culture generally, that when something wrong is revealed, then the process of correcting the wrong or punishing the wrongdoer begins. And that Trump has managed to completely upend that. And when things are discovered about him that are bad, like, he made $2.2 billion off the first year of his presidency, it doesn't cause him any trouble at all. He doesn't get in any trouble. It would be it would be like in all of Shakespeare's tragedies if nobody ever paid any price for anything. It's kind of like that. So, but yes, you're absolutely right about this. Fortunately, the rest of the world is doing a little bit better than we are. In some cases, a lot better than we are at addressing these problems. It drives me nuts, anyway. The thing I was going to say was the thing that strikes me as insane in that way, just kind of a violation of the way things used to be, is when Trump actually goes after wind projects. Like, I understand why you might want to suck up to the fossil fuel industry if you're Donald Trump. That's very on brand. But he wouldn't be the first politician to do that, and to, on behalf of the fossil fuel industry, repeatedly assert its primacy. It was Sarah Palin who gave us Drill Baby Drill. But this is different. This is like actually hating on and doing your best to interfere with and, if possible, halt wind farms and stuff like that.
I know.
And, as I drive around, and I'm sure you sound even more tuned into this than I am, but as I drive around, I often look at spaces. I've said this before on these shows, where I think, why isn't there a solar array right there? You know, why is that space not being used for that? The cheapest, fastest way to make energy right now, to quote Bill McKibben, is to point a piece of glass at the sun. So why don't we do that more? I don't get it. I don't get it. It seems pretty easy. But anyway, that's me babbling. Did you have any last thoughts for us?
No, that's basically what I called about. So I appreciate your input.
Well, I appreciate yours too. We appreciate each other's input, and that's what America's all about. Possibly, maybe. All right, I guess I'll take Jim's call, and then we'll go to a break here. The number, if you want to get in the queue, is 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. And if there are no calls, one of the things that I'm interested in pointing out today, something I learned this weekend, is the connection between cheese and separation of church and state. But anyway, let's talk to Jim first, and then we'll go to a break. This is Jim in Canton. Hi, Jim.
Good afternoon. Yes, just a quick follow-on point about the Flo Balogun situation, the U.S. men's soccer player. Mm-hmm. It's really quite ironic. His parents are Nigerian, were living in London, and were visiting the U.S., and his mother was 7 months pregnant. Airline would not let her back on the airplane, hence he was born in New York City. Hence he is an American.
Yeah, and after the Dreamer decision, if you were on social media, particularly on X, there were so many conservative politicians and just sort of right-wing trolls and stuff like that say, you mean, just anybody can just show up here and have a baby and then leave, and then the baby is, this is the guy that they, as you're saying, this is the person that they are currently going to bat for.
He ticks all the boxes. I mean, he's lived all his life in England.
Yeah. See, he is a birthright citizen soccer player, football player,
baby.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, he's a football anchor baby. All right, Jim, thanks for driving home that point a little bit more and doing it so well. We'll take a break and we'll come back. You can call 888-720-9677. In the meantime, 888-720-WNPR.
I'm just waiting on a text from you saying that you can slide if you want to, grind if you want to, all night if you want to. Just come on, baby. Come on, baby, yeah. Tonight if you want to. All night. All night if you want to. Just come on, baby. Slide if you want to.
So many people to thank, and I'm grateful to have so many people to thank, starting with the Jedi Master himself, Obi-Wan Eugene Amatruda. He is our technical producer today. Robin Doyen-Aiken, who's our boss, is on the phones, and I believe this is a joint production. This show is a joint production of two sort of major communications entities around here anyway. Anyway, that would be Lily Tyson Quality Entertainment Productions and the Isaac Moss Report. So thanks to all of you. And we are doing Ask or Tell Me Anything, 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. Let's go to Chris in Avon. Hi, Chris.
Hello, past 4th of July. I hope you had a good time.
I did.
There's been it's been a process for me because I was kind of dreading this 4th of July. First of all, because I hate the heat, but it's always hot on the 4th of July. But, between the combination of the Knicks winning and then the World Cup starting, and that turned out to be a lot more fun than I wondered whether it was going to be. The visitors seemed to have been welcomed by their towns really well, and they brought their own joy and fun to it. So I think it was going the way I think it was meant to go until yesterday. But I'm not, I'm still going to cheer for the men today. They had nothing to do with this, really, and they deserve their shot. It's just too bad that the water's been muddied for them. But the other thing was that I participated in a number of things that happened in Hartford to celebrate the 4th, and they were all very cool. And the one thing that's still going on is the exhibit at the Wadsworth Atheneum.
The American landscape one, the American art one, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely terrific. We went on Thursday, and there was a pretty good crowd there, and it was some of the art was really astonishing. So I
thought actually when I got done yesterday on the mall, I thought maybe I'll. And then I thought, no, I'm a tired old man. I'm going to go home. I was very close to just running up those steps though, and going in there. And now I wish I had, but I'll try to get there and see it.
There.
Yeah, it's still there.
It's still there.
All right. So for $700, what was the first thing? It's the Stegosaurus is not the correct answer. What was the first thing placed on the grounds of the Wadsworth Atheneum? The first sculpture or statue or piece of publicly viewable art placed on the grounds?
Oh, that's totally unfair. I have no idea.
I'm offering you $700.
That's fair.
It's not like you have to pay me $700 if you don't know. No, the correct answer is the statue of Nathan Hale. And here's the interesting thing. I was telling some people about this yesterday. The guy who did that statue of Nathan, I'm obsessed with Nathan Hale. Somehow or other, we've never done a Nathan Hale episode, but I'm obsessed with Nathan Hale. So that particular statue was done by a guy who had been a bricklayer. He was from Nova Scotia. He was a naturalized citizen here from Nova Scotia. And he'd been a bricklayer, and he'd been supposedly working at the state capitol and had taken a fall, I assume off a scaffolding or something, and had been so badly injured that he really couldn't return to the work of being a bricklayer. But it turned out he had this other, previously undiscovered talent. And it's actually a very nice rendering. I mean, we don't know what Nathan Hale looked like, but
he's a very handsome man in that statue.
Yes. And he was believed that I think there is I wish Mary Beth Baker were still alive. She was the person who was really kind of an expert on a lot of this stuff. But there was a certain amount of indication in some of the writings from the time and stuff that he was a bit of a head turner. So I think that's accurate too. But anyway, that's my piece of useless information that I am imparting to you.
I feel the better for it.
And I feel good that I don't have to pay you $700 too. So I think we're both happy at this point. I mean, it's a win-win, although it doesn't necessarily involve winning for one of us. All right, so lines are open, 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. In the absence of any calls, I will explain the connection between separation of power and large amounts of cheese. And it goes something like this. As many of you realize, the term separation of powers does not exist in the Constitution. It's not part of the Bill of Rights. What exists instead there is the so-called Establishment Clause, which, by the way, Connecticut stayed in violation of for a really long time. That's a whole other story. It's actually not unconnected from what I'm about to tell you. What we knew and what I have long known is separation of powers exists in a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Baptists of Danbury, Connecticut. Because the Baptists of Danbury, Connecticut were suffering under what they, I think, correctly perceived as the unfair establishment of a state religion. So Congregationalism was essentially a state religion. And so everybody was always just dunking on the Baptists. And Baptists wrote to Thomas Jefferson, and they wrote him a letter. They said, why everybody just keep dunking on us? What can be done about this? That may not have been their exact words. But and so Jefferson writes back to them, and he says this thing about separation of church and state. Now, that phrase has been widely or has been open to sort of widely disparate kinds of interpretation. What did he exactly mean? And it doesn't have the force of law anyway. It's just a letter to some Baptists. Now, I knew all of that, but what I didn't know was something else. And what I didn't know is the thing that I know. I could do this from memory anyway. But so there was this guy named John Leland, and he was, in fact, a Baptist and he was profiled in the New York Times in their magazine on Sunday. And the point was that he was one of the people who was really kind of making that case all along, the case that maybe led to ultimately the idea of separation of church and state. But the other thing that he did on this one particular occasion, and now I have to pull it up because I won't get the numbers right, but he also had encouraged the women of his Baptist community in Western Massachusetts to produce what he would bill as the greatest cheese in America. Now, by greatest, this, of course, was the early 19th century, 1801, to be specific. Greatest meant biggest. And it was going to be a gift for Thomas Jefferson. So he shows up. The women worked very hard on this. I don't know why it was a women's job, but it was. Well, it was 1801. That's who made the cheese. So, at least in this occasion. So they made a monstrous wheel of cheese. This is from the New York Times, Sunday Magazine. A monstrous wheel of cheese that required the milk of 900 cows, weighed 1,235 pounds, and measured more than 4 feet in diameter. They decorated the top with the, I shouldn't be reading this, because now Trump is going to want a bigger wheel of cheese than this. But they decorated the top with the third president's personal seal, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." And to this day, "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God" is one of the more popular cheese brands in America. Go to your grocer's refrigerator case and make sure they have "Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God." I think both an American cheese, a Swiss cheese, and a Havarti as well. So Leland, this Baptist minister, transports the cheese to Washington by sleigh, sloop, and wagon. I mean, Paul Revere had it relatively easy. This guy had to get this huge amount of cheese to Washington, D.C. from Western Massachusetts. And so on New Year's Day in 1802, Jefferson personally accepted the cheese and had it displayed in the East Room of the White House, where it remained for at least a year until, according to one account, it became a maggot-filled mess that was dumped into the Potomac. Which to me, you really had me at maggot-filled mess. But anyway, what's the connection? At the same time, on the same day in 1802, the same New Year's Day that he accepted this mammoth amount of cheese, Jefferson forged that line that would shape legal arguments and Supreme Court opinions for years to come, writing to the Danbury Baptist Church and Association in Connecticut to explain his reluctance to proclaim public days of fasting and Thanksgiving. He said that the First Amendment's establishment clause had built a wall of separation between church and state. And now you know. Now you know the rest of the story. I wonder, do I dare to... listen, Frank, can you do this in 30 seconds? That's what you've got. Can you do it in 30 seconds?
Thought experiment.
Yeah.
Yes, thought experiment. If this had happened to the team of Cape Verde and one of their players got a red card, and do you think if the president of Cape Verde called FIFA, do you think they would get a review?
I don't think he would get his call answered. I'm also a little confused. Has anybody else noticed? It's too late to do anything about this, but has anybody else noticed that NPR has been saying Cape Verde? They're not saying. I've always said Verde, with the E, the second E pronounced kind of an A sound. But I don't really know why I was doing that, because the other cool kids were doing it, apparently. I don't know. Anyway, we have to stop now. Gene, you can bring up the music. Thanks for listening today. It's Ask or Tell Me Anything. We do it most Mondays until someone stops us.
Last night I was 5 feet tall, today I may be 10. When I fall down the stairs, I float up again. When they turned the lights on me, it nearly drove me blind. I woke up in Bellevue, but left my mind behind. I don't have an excuse, I just have bad news.